Hello, Editing Christina here. Welcome to the video. I wanted to give a little bit of an explanation for the kind of my thoughts behind this video before we jump into it. So for this video, I'm going to be creating 3 rainbow watercolor backgrounds using 3 different types of watercolor paint. One's actually technically not a watercolor paint. I'm going to be using Distress Reinkers. So this was actually an answer to a question from one of my premium members here at my YouTube channel. If you want to join my premium membership, click the join button down below. Leanne had asked, like when I'm doing a background or I'm going to be painting little critters or whatever, why do you pick one type of watercolor over another? So this is my response to her, and I realized as I was editing the video that it wasn't a full, complete answer to her question. So I want to address her question more fully in an upcoming video, but I did still want to show you the resulting cards from that original question. So basically in this video, we're just going to be exploring 3 rainbow watercolor backgrounds using 3 different types of watercolor, and I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. Like I said, we're first going to be using the Kuretake Zig Gansai Tambi palettes. I like for these faux dip dye to use kind of like a square brush. I think it works a little bit better. So I've got, this is a 1/2 inch Zen brush from Royal and Langnickel. All right, so I want it to be sort of like rainbow. So I'm going to start, like I only want the colors that would overlap in a rainbow to be overlapping on the, I don't know if this is going to work, basically. I have no idea if it's going to work. We're just going to jump in and hope that things turn out. Okay, I'm going to start with a little bit of this red up here. Just getting it kind of saturated on my brush. Okay, I have no clue if this is going to work. We're just going to go for it. I'm going to add a little more water to that. I kind of want like an uneven line. Maybe it's not really faux dip dye. Maybe it's just going to be like overlapping segments, I guess. I don't know. Lots of heat drying this time around. Okay, I'm going to overlap these a little bit. I'm going to come up enough that I can have the yellow overlap. And I also want kind of like a really strong line right there. Okay, I'm going to come to a nice bright yellow. All right, so I'll just have it kind of overlap this right here. I think with faux dip dye, what gives it its distinctive look is that there are like defined harsh lines. So this really isn't a faux dip dye look. We're just going for some harsh lines. I'm going to be using a die to die cut this down a little bit smaller than a 5x7 card. So it will probably be cut to just this area here. So I'm totally okay with it like that. But that's turned out pretty cute. Next up, we're going to try to do a center white background. Like it's mostly like white in the center, and then the outer edges will have color. And I want them to be pretty intense color, so I'm going to be using distressed reinkers. I've got picked raspberry, Mermaid, Lagoon. In fact, I'll show these to you. Hold on. Got picked raspberry, mustard seed, and Mermaid Lagoon for this second background. I'm going to get myself a clean cup or big huge bucket of water, just because I do want the center to be really white and clean. Got our little palette over here. And I'm going to switch to a different watercolor brush. I don't want that square one anymore. Yeah, I think this one will work. It's just a size 8 round. This is from Zen Art. All right, I'm gonna get my colors out here. A little bit of picked raspberry, or a lot of it. And these distress ink inkers last forever, especially if you're going to paint with them, because you don't need very much. Like I probably have too much here, actually. I'm going to switch to a spray bottle. Get it nice and inky, or not inky, but wet. But I'm going to go over it with a brush because I don't want it to be too puddly. I've got like dust on my brush or something. It's going everywhere. That's okay. My regular paintbrush, I'm going to grab a little bit of that picked raspberry. This is a very intense color, so I want it to just kind of be on the edge there. And then I'm going to clean off my brush really well. I'm going to grab a little bit of that mustard seed. I'm going to start over here. And then I'm going to come up here because it's going to hit that pink and start to turn orange. In fact, I might even bring a little more of that in, just overlapping. Bring a little more of that down here. Get some more of that picked raspberry, and then I'm going to come into Mermaid Lagoon, and this one's going to be kind of overlapping in this area, and then we'll start to get a little bit of a purple where those overlap. Okay, and then I'm thinking this might be a mess. We'll see. Add a whole lot more water. We just really want to get the colors moving. You know what? I don't even have a paper towel out. This is dangerous. All right, it's got a lot of water right on the edges, and I kind of want to stop it from going anywhere. So I'm going to come in with my paper towel. Just pick that up. I'm going to pick it up over here too. Just right on that edge. Got a little die cut right there that wants in. Wherever there's like big puddles starting to form where I don't want it, I'm just coming in with my paper towel and just sopping up some of that color. And I think we should do a second layer of color on this just to really get those, well, I don't know. It's starting to like dry back really pretty. Maybe I don't want to do that. I'm getting a weird spot right here though, so I'm going to do that. All right, I'm going to hit this with my heat tool and we'll see what it looks like. I might want another layer. I might not. I'm not sure. Okay, I don't think I want to do another layer. Getting all that dust off that came on earlier, as much as I can anyway. Distress reinkers, that's what I used today. I just put them out on the palette here. just 3 different colors. Distress reinkers are super concentrated. And I knew for this particular background, I would be using a lot of water, but I didn't want to lose that intensity of color. So instead of using something like a traditional watercolor that you need to add liquid to it to make it start moving, Distress inks, they already move at their most concentrated form. So I knew that even with tons of water, that I would still have some intense color. And that's why I picked Distress ink for this. I love using Distress reinkers for backgrounds because you can get intense color without having to layer a ton of it on top of each other. I still do that sometimes because I like the look of that layered kind of effect, but you don't have to. So for this one, I think I'm going to leave it like this. I'm not going to do anything to it because I like the intensity of color. Okay, so I'm using my Mijello Mission Gold. This lovely palette here, my favorite paints. I finally refilled Opera Pink over there. All right, so we're gonna go for traditional rainbow shades, but we're gonna make it sort of like a more centered on the watercolor paper so the edges won't have much color. All right, let's start with, in fact, you know what? Let's start with that Opera Pink because it is such a pretty color. And I'll just, remember we're going for like happy fluffy clouds. Happy fluffy cloud texture. It's kind of like what I did for Jennifer's birthday card that I shared on my channel. All right, happy fluffy cloud. While that's still wet, I'm going to grab some of this yellow, kind of similar to what we did in the last one, where I'm just going to let them kind of overlap and create orange. Getting more water on my brush. I'm going to encourage those colors to kind of overlap and mix. All right, I'm going to do a little more yellow coming down through here. Then I'm going to grab a nice green shade. Actually, I guess we could just do blue and it'll become green. No, we'll do green. Grabbing a nice green shade. Once again, I'm trying to get some happy fluffy cloud texture. I'll switch to a blue. We'll kind of get the blue to overlap this area right here. Maybe I should have had some purple up there. We'll see. And then I'm going to grab just a little bit of that purple. And just bring it down here at the bottom. Maybe have that blue overlap with the purple a little bit. So right now it's looking very, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of not real watercolory and fun. We're going to do that on our second layer. The paints I'm using now are Mijello Mission Gold. I have a link down below in the video description. So now what I'm going to do is traditional watercolors, when they dry, they fade back quite a bit. Just notice how they kind of faded back as they dried. The pink up here stayed pretty intense just because that's how that pink is and I love it. But everything else kind of dried back. So that's why I'm going to add a second layer of color. So I'm going to come in with that same pink again. Maybe I'll water it down a little bit more this time. And I'm going to do kind of like a overlapping sort of look here. And when I do this second layer, I like to keep gaps in the painting. So some of that color underneath peeks through. Coming back to this yellow. Adding just a little yellow over here. come to the green. Having like some little bits that have a little bit of stronger color is really fun. And then I've got like kind of like two areas that have the blue on them. I'll overlap that a little bit. All right, I'm gonna add just a little bit more of this blue down in this corner. And then I'm gonna grab the purple, and we'll do the purple just kind of over and into this area. Okay. I love what's happening here, but it's looking a little weird. So I'm going to come in with a little bit of water, kind of disperse that green. In fact, there's a lot of green there. I think I might bring in this blue just right there just to get that color kind of moving a little bit. All right. And this with my heat tool till it's dry. Okay, I love what happened right here. I think it's because I brought in more water when it was starting to dry. That's why we're getting this really cool texture right through here. And then down here, there was kind of like this puddle of water that was collecting to the side. And that's when you get these dry back textures. I think it looks so neat. Just like 3 different rainbow backgrounds. So the stamp set I thought would be fun to pair with these is this one from Simon Says Stamp. This is one that I did. It may have been for a card kit. I can't remember. But it's one I did a while back. I thought these really large greetings would pair well with some intense backgrounds. So I'm going to use A7 layers. And I think that size, no, I think I want a little smaller than that. Okay, about like that. Yeah. Okay. And then this one, I think I want to preserve as much as I can of that outer edge. So maybe, yeah, that size right there. For this last one, I think it could almost be, I could cut it down to an A2 size. Maybe we'll make it just a little bit smaller. About like that. I think that could be really pretty. Gonna have to stamp this twice, so I'm making sure it's down in that corner really well. Use the anti-static powder. Maybe you just want it in white, not gold. I think it would probably read a little bit better just in straight white. And then I'm doing it off center because I'm planning to like put twine or something at the bottom. Yeah, I think white was a good choice. Okay, looks like there's some spots kind of right there in the center on the happy birthday that aren't coming through really brightly. I think I'll just use a white gel pen on top of it. Fill this in a little bit. I'm just filling in some of these gaps. So they look just a little bit better. They read a little bit better. Put this on a little bit of foam tape and then onto a card front. All right, and then double checking the card front. Okay, yes, I think the white embossing powder was definitely the right choice. Look how cute that turned out. Okay, I have an idea. I think I'm going to do the sending love and hugs in the center and then do a thin frame around it. Stained. Okay, so I'm going to use some gold embossing powder. Really let it sit on there. Sometimes I find that if you just kind of tap it, somehow I don't know if it really helps or not, but it seems like it does. So here, this dice is actually discontinued from Simon, which is super sad. There's a new version where the frames aren't quite as thin. Oh yeah, that's the perfect size. Right. This is from like a pack of opulent papers. This is the gold brushed metal. Isn't that pretty? Kind of like matches. So this will go around like this. Oh yeah, that's gonna be really pretty. That'll be perfect. I'm just gonna grab a little bit of like removable or temporary adhesive just to hold that down. But I'm gonna get this positioned perfectly. Then I'm gonna take this and put that in place right over it. And I'm going to pick up my frame. That really doesn't want to hold because it's, you know what? We're going to have to adhere it to a card first. It needs the sturdiness of the adhesive underneath holding it so it doesn't warp. All right, and then this should hopefully hold the card down a little bit. Let's see. Opens that way. This should hold it down so that I can adhere that frame more easily. Yeah, there's like total warping right down through the middle. Okay, right there. We're going to take our cardstock that has the temporary adhesive on the back. Put it kind of like right there. That'll hold it down. And then I'm going to take my glue. Make sure I don't have a ton blobbing out. And I'm just going to run a really thin line right around the outside. And then adhere that down before it can dry. This one. All right, not bad for a small greeting on a big card. I really love that gold too. That's really fun. I like that. That's kind of cute. Very different. Okay. Good enough. Here are, let me get that out of the way. Here are the 3 cards that I completed today. I love the addition of the gold over here. That looks so great. Then we've got 2 A2 cards. Love those. Happy birthday, hello there, and love and hugs. Love how those turned out. Thanks so much for joining me out today. I will see you in another video very soon. Thanks for watching.